Should we talk about how Katie hasn't seen the Barbie movie? I am wearing the shirt that I wore to my Barbie movie. Let me show you.
Okay.
So
we want to see that in our audio-only medium. Oh, wow, that's a really good Barbie shirt.
That's is a good
perfect.
One, yeah.
That is really
I just
good.
wore like a pink button-up.
Wow, very good. Is it too late to dress? Okay, here we go. My question is...
It's too late to dress up.
to dress up if I go tomorrow?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Dempsey says yes. Seth
I can
says
guarantee you there's going to be a bunch of kids there wearing pink, and you're going to fit in.
Perfect. That's my dream, is to fit in with the kids wearing pink. Perfect.
Listen, it's not a kids movie, but there's going to be a bunch of kids there.
It's not a kids movie. Go there at a later screening, so you're not going to be with a bunch of 7-year-olds. That's my advice.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that sage wisdom. I will. All right. Welcome to Overthinking Games, a podcast about what video games can teach you. My name is Katie. I'm going to be leading our topic today. And joining me are the other two hosts of our podcast. Seth, say hi.
Hi.
And Dempsey.
Hi.
He sounds so excited to be here. He's so relaxed with his feet up now.
Yeah, it's good.
This week, we are going to be talking about skill checks and progression locking. And if we can think of the more nerdy video game term for that, we'll use that. But for now, we're talking about it as skill checks. And it's basically, what do you have to be able to do to progress in a game? What makes for good progression or a good skill check versus a not so good one or a boring one? And what kind of skill checks do we run into? But before we get into that, we're going to talk about what we've been playing this week. Guys, Seth, you want to take it away?
Sure. A little bit of the inside baseball, a little bit of how the sausage is made. This is a Sunday. We made our last episode on Thursday, and the episode before that was the previous Sunday. So we've been knocking them out. So I haven't really had a ton of a chances to play stuff. I'm about to finally order that power supply. So hopefully I can actually get back on playing some actual games. I've been playing a little bit of Call of Duty still. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be playing that, but it's still kind of fun. So I don't know. We're rocking that. That's kind of it. What's everyone drinking today? I've got some rum and coke.
Fresca.
Well, I have this, so I showed this Sunny D vodka seltzer, but honestly, this is from 2 weeks ago.
Oh, no.
I am not drinking that.
You made me go get
alcohol.
That's actually true.
Are you playing the free game that came with PlayStation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The zombies
I don't
are
pay
good.
money for games.
The zombies are good.
I haven't played the zombies yet, but I mean it's downloaded, so I should give it a shot.
Only part of Call of Duty I like.
Multiplayer can be okay. Just okay is how I would describe Call of Duty multiplayer.
Yeah, if it's not Warzone, is it anything? And if it is Warzone, is it worth it?
No.
Dempsey, what have you been playing?
I don't play multiplayer shooter, so I always feel left out of these conversations. I don't play any cool games.
We've noticed.
What I did play was more Disco Elysium, and I don't know. Do you think it's a spoiler if I say what I did?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's cool, and I like it, and it's a good game. I guess is kind of all I can say. That I want so bad to talk about it. I might put it in the video essay I'm working on. The video essay I'm working on is entitled Functional Father Simulator. And so, I guess that's as close to talking about what happened in Disco Elysium as I can talk about.
Isn't it funny when you find those just little hidden gems? You had no idea that's what it was going to be.
No, it's made me really in love with the writing. I feel like it was written by people who care about the story that they're telling.
Yes.
But besides that, I played the GMTK Game Maker's Toolkit Game Jam games. And they're you can play some of them in browser. They're on itch.io. And there's some pretty fantastic ones. The theme this year was roles reversed. So far, my favorite is a game called You versus You. And it's an action platformer and you play. So you play the same level multiple times. So there's like light and dark, and so the light, you play like the light character, and your goal is to make it to the door, and then the game like remembers what you did, and then it runs. Instead of having an AI, it just runs what your character did. And then the next round, you play the dark character and you have to kill your light character.
It's like when we used to do racing games and you'd race against your ghost time.
Yes,
like,
yes.
Yeah.
But except you are your own enemy, basically.
Right.
And then the better you solve one problem, the more difficult you make the problem for yourself to solve later, is kind of how that game works. And
cool.
It's really cool. Like,
that is cool.
Like, I think there's only like 5 levels or whatever, because it was a game jam game. But like the idea has so much potential, and they like now you can go on Steam and wish list like the full version. They said they're going to make the full version of the game. So
awesome.
I highly suggest that. There's a reverse Pictionary, which was pretty fun, where instead of you drawing the picture and then the program guesses, the program gives you directions and you draw it, and then you have to guess what it's trying to get you to draw.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
So it'll be like,
so that's Pictionary when you don't have friends.
Yeah. But there's a ton of fantastic ones. There's one with a dog that's very fun. So like you're a dog and your owner is immovable and going on a set path around the neighborhood, but you can move all around your owner on a short leash. But you can collect trash and bones and pets from strangers as power up, and then when you fill up a bar, you have enough power to drag your owner around.
Okay.
And so I like, there's just so many fantastic little games. So I really suggest going to just looking up Game Maker's Toolkit game jams. And
cool.
a lot of them you don't have to download at all. You can just play right in browser. And looking up from years past is a good idea too. But they're normally they're sorted by like so the community votes on them, and so the best ones you don't have to dig for. They're already like the 10 best whatever. So it's pretty easy to find the most creative ones. Anyways,
cool.
that's I've been spending some time in there. Highly suggest it. It's super fun.
I think Inscription started as a game jam actually as well, and then they turned it into a full game.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Pretty cool. I feel like I never ever even heard of game jams until I started podcasting with you guys, and now I feel like I hear about it everywhere. It's bizarre.
It's like you don't see a Subaru until you start driving Subarus, and then Subarus are everywhere.
Right. What's that? It's some kind of bias or something that it's like a phenomenon where suddenly you are paying attention to it. I can't remember.
I was going to call it the Dunning-Kruger effect and then really stick to the bit. But yeah, the Dunning-Kruger effect is like, okay.
Yeah, that's a good joke. No, yeah, it's a good joke. Sorry. I was too dumb to get it. What have you been playing, Katie?
I've been playing a game that maybe you guys haven't heard of. It's kind of an older game.
Oh, you're so cool.
I am. I'm not
Katie.
like other gamers. I've been playing this game, and it's kind of got like really simple graphics and fairly simple gameplay loop, but it's super fun. It's called Minecraft. And
oh yeah.
I've never played it before. So
you've never played Minecraft?
I had never played Minecraft until yesterday. And obviously I know what it is, and like a lot of my students play it, and a lot of people that I know like have played it or do play it. And I was like, oh, that's cool. It's like Legos, like 3D Legos. Like, I don't really get it. But my brother wanted to play with the family, and so now that we all have like Steam Decks or PCs, we can do it. So he set up a server for us, and after a bit of jumping through hoops to get it installed on the Steam Deck, it works perfectly. And we just had the best time. My mom, my brother, and I were playing all together and tunneling and finding stuff and running from zombies. And I was like, okay, I get this. This is great. This is like if Stardew Valley was in 3D and wasn't quite as aggressively time locked, and and also playing Legos. It's those things together. It's so fun. I had no idea what I was missing out on. And apparently it never goes on sale. I was a little surprised by that. Yeah.
Every 10-year-old on the planet has been preaching this gospel for the last decade.
I know. I'm late to the party. It'll be good though, because now when I go back to school and my students are like, "Oh, have you ever played Minecraft?" I'll be able to be like, "Yes, I am one of the cool kids. I have played Minecraft, and now I too understand and believe."
Minecraft,
so, it's great.
It's pretty irrecognizable from what I remember. Like now they have like way more stuff in there. Like I booted it up with a friend, and like there was pandas and bamboo. And the Minecraft that I grew up on did not have pandas and bamboo.
Interesting. We're playing with some kind of... They've added stuff, right? Like, and the mod community is super active, is what I see.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, we're playing with, like, a certain mod pack, and I don't know what's original and what's mod, because I never played it before. But it's been fun. I almost killed my mom on accident, which was funny and sad, because we were on like this ledge and there was like a big drop below and there were bats, and I didn't know if the bats could harm us, and it was flying towards us, and I swung at it right as my mom came around the corner, and I accidentally whacked her right off of the ledge, and she fell like 30 feet and lost all but 2 of her health hearts. She was okay. I gave her my cookie, so I made up for it. But yeah, so it was just funny. Like,
as a fellow Steam Deck user, I have to ask, can you launch it from Steam? Because I know you can't download it on Steam, but can you launch it from Steam, or do you have to go into desktop mode to launch it?
No, you have to go to desktop mode at first to get it installed, and then we're using this thing called Prism Launcher, I think is what it's called. And you can add that as a non-Steam game to your Steam Deck, and then you can get to it from the regular like play screen, just like you would get to your like Epic Launcher or Heroic or whatever you're using.
Yeah, that's how I get to Dolphin. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So that's been an adventure. My mom's been playing all day long. We're like, take breaks. But she's like, but I'm getting us so much stuff. I'm like, oh, good. So at least somebody is.
That's funny.
And the other thing I've been playing is Outer Wilds, also on the Steam Deck. And I've been playing it. I tried it handheld and I've tried it docked. And I actually think it's better docked on my monitor. I was having some trouble with motion sickness, but I adjusted some of the graphic settings and it's been fine. It's a super fun exploration game. Like, I don't think there's any combat. I've not seen any situation where there's combat, but there's definitely plenty of tension in different ways. But
the universe wants to kill you. There's no specific person after you.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit targeted by the universe, but I'm really excited to play it more and find out what all the mysteries are. So that's what I've been playing.
It's so good. It's so good. Oh my God, the game's so good. We're going to have to do like
a deep dive on
an episode on it. Yeah.
Yes. And
you understand what?
Play it.
Yeah. You haven't played it yet, Seth? Oh yeah, that's right. You said that earlier.
No, and sorry, I was just gonna say one of my good friends from like high school actually sent me a message out of the blue. And he's the guy I roomed with in college, and was like, "Hey, have you played Outer Wilds?" Like completely, like I don't think he listens to our podcast or anything. He was just like, "Hey, have you played Outer Wilds?" And I was like, no." And he's like, "You need to go play Outer Wilds." And I was like, "Okay." So that was out of nowhere, and it looks like I need to play it.
There you go. It's been confirmed.
Confirmation.
Exactly. All right, so getting into our topic. This actually, my brother suggested this topic, and I thought it was a cool one. So, talking about skill checks and progression, and I guess what I think is interesting about it, and what I wanted to talk about it for was That sentence was interesting. Was because I think it's interesting to see the different ways that games sort of moderate progress and kind of curate what that progress can look like for people, and what they require from gamers, people playing their games, to be able to move forward with the story, versus like optional challenges and like things that you can do. Like in Hollow Knight, you have things you have to be able to progress through, certain bosses you have to beat, versus optional things for like collectibles and that sort of thing. And just kind of what makes for a good skill check or progression lock versus one that's not satisfying or not well designed. So the first thing that I was thinking about was just it's easier, I think, to identify what's not good because you know what makes you bounce off, right? So when I bounce off a game, like it's usually because I've run into something that is either too hard or too tedious. Do you guys have games that you've bounced off of for specific reasons, or?
You made a good point for our last episode about also like if things don't respect your time. I've played a few games where I played it and I was like, okay, this is fun, but it's too punishing.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, like a lot of old video games are often just like too punishing. Stuff that like really comes to mind is like if there's like an old arcade game that got turned into like a console game. Some of them are available on like the Switch Virtual Console stuff. You play it and you're like, wow, this is like obnoxiously difficult because they wanted you to like spend quarters to like keep playing.
Right.
So, and that's a skill issue, but
that's true. Yeah. Like there's a point where you can't get good enough because you're supposed to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. How about you, Dempsey? What makes you bounce off a game?
Yeah, so I have an unpopular opinion, and my unpopular opinion is like kind of what all of roguelites are built around. But if I feel like there's no way for me to progress, that like, so for example, in Hades has some pretty tough bosses. But I played Hades like a baby, and I put God mode on, so I know that I was not going to get stuck behind a boss. I could like, I know that every time I was making progress on something, because if you put God mode on with Hades, you get a little bit stronger every time you die or whatever, however that works or whatever. And so I felt like I was at least progressing towards that goal. With Elden Ring, like you can, like bosses can be unbelievably difficult, but you can kind of go and explore and get more runes and level up and then come back to a boss. And so those skill checks do not feel as unforgiving. I'm playing Returnal, where like you just like it's a roguelite, and once you get stuck on a boss, you just start over again and again and again, and there's not really any permanent upgrades. So like you either spend the time to like get better, like or you don't progress at all. And like the amount that I actually have to get better at Returnal, I do not think is worth the amount of time that it's going to take me to get better at Returnal, if that makes any sense.
Totally.
Like I've put in like I think over 20 hours into it by now. And so like it's going to have to be like a long-term commitment, not just like a learning the mechanics and stuff like that, but like, oh, like I'm going to have to like long-term get better at this, which is I don't think something I'm interested in. So I think when skill checks or like progression locks are locked behind no other way to make any kind of progression, I can really bounce off of. And then alternatively, and something that with Disco Elysium, when progression locks are RNG, so random number generators.
Yeah.
And when you can't do anything about it, so Disco Elysium is a role-playing game where you roll dice and make skill checks, and you can influence that by learning more about the story or putting skill points into certain
wearing certain clothing.
Like wearing certain clothing. Like you can structure yourself to give you a better chance. But at the end of the day, like you can fail like a skill check, you're supposed to have a 97% passing. You can still fail no matter how many things you did right. And the only thing that saves Disco Elysium for me is that the story is so good. I have faith that whether I pass or fail, I'm going to get a satisfying enough narrative that makes that worth it. But yeah, I think when the skills check is literally random in games, that also is a turnoff for me. So those are my two things that this makes me think about.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that with the random, what is that, RNG? Because it's so frustrating to, like you said, like you have a 97% chance and that 3% happens and it closes something off and you're like, oh my God, I should just reload my save. I didn't save for an hour. I can't do that. But I think that I ran into that with Citizen Sleeper as well, which is another role-playing game that uses dice in the mechanics to determine your success or failure. And what I loved about it was I felt like even when I failed, I felt that it was opening the path a different way, not necessarily shutting down the path. And I think that's for me kind of what makes a good skill check in that situation is when where failure and success both still have meaning. And it's not just, well, you have to try again or don't try again. No more tries. Like you have to just move on with your failure, you know? Which I think is where Darkest Dungeon, we've talked about that with failure before, that it seems like that would be more frustrating because you get into the battle and it's just unlucky what you're up against. And you just have to accept your defeat and move on with your life.
Yeah. It's great. I love it. Just to make a note here, coming from a background also of like tabletop role playing games. I know, Katie, you've played some like D&D and stuff, right? I think you've talked about it.
Yeah.
One of the common premises for like a tabletop role playing game, which often involves a lot of skill checks, just in the more sort of literal sense, is that dice tell stories, right? So as long as you can build a narrative that has failure feel as rewarding as success, or feel like it's rewarding in a different way, it doesn't really matter if you fail or succeed, because you get a good narrative out of it. And Dempsey, that kind of sounds like what you're saying for something like Disco Elysium, a game where even if you fail, interesting things still happen. It's not like 100%. Failure doesn't lead to interesting things. Failure just leads to a different set of interesting things.
Yeah.
So it can be frustrating to like fail a 97% skill check, or it could be frustrating to play Darkest Dungeon and have your squad wipe to a bunch of spiders. But that's sometimes just how the cookie crumbles. And, in a game like Darkest Dungeon, where it's not narrative driven, it's just about getting back into the fight. But for something like Disco Elysium or Dungeons and Dragons, like some of the best moments for me whenever I was playing Dungeons and Dragons was like a failed dice roll led to something funny, or like a successful dice roll by the players led to something cool happening. And me as the DM, like that's a failure for me because I wanted the dude to blow up and kill everybody, and then they got lucky. But hey, everyone had fun at the end, and it's a good memory. So
yeah, it keeps it interesting when the door isn't shut because you didn't have the like success criteria. I feel like some games that I was thinking about that do require they require a specific level of proficiency to be able to move forward, like your Hollow Knights or your Dark Souls, Hades, things like that. Those kinds of like, I guess I would call them really hard games because they're really hard to me. But they're just like, you just have to get good. Like I would get stuck in a boss fight in Hollow Knight and I would look it up on YouTube to see, okay, how did other people beat this boss? And I'd watch the video And I'd be like, okay, I get it. I just need to be better. Okay. You know? And for me, like, there's a point where it's like you were saying, Dempsey, there's a point where it's not worth it to me to get good enough to get past the part that I'm at. Like in Hollow Knight, which I think is one of my favorite games, I'm probably never going to beat it. And I've come to accept that because I'm at a stage in the game where anywhere that I would want to go to try to like progress, I have to beat a really tough boss no matter where I go. And whether I go into like Deep Nest to fight that one guy that's way down there to get another shard of my he's got like a mask shard or some kind of ore or something so I can level up my sword. I can't beat him every time I try. I struggled. I can't beat there's another one. I can't remember which one I'm on right now, but like everywhere I go to try to like get stuff to level up my nail or to get more masks or whatever, I feel like I'm just being like slapped down. And now I'm so out of playing it that I'm like, I'm never going to be good enough at this point of the game to be able to make progress. And I'm kind of getting to that point where I'm like, well, either I'll start over someday and try again, or it'll just be did not finish, you know? And that's where like I get to that point, probably not, it doesn't take too long really for me when it comes to like straight up, like, are you good at combat? How do you guys approach those kinds of challenges?
It's tough because the sort of way that I'm thinking about it is the two sides is the one side of me in all of those scenarios just wants to say like, hey, this is a me problem because I know other people have beaten this before and I just need to get better. And sometimes that solution, like, because I've played a lot of the Dark Souls games, is a conversation topic that comes up a lot, right? About like, do Dark Souls games need like an easy mode? And like the conversation goes a lot of different ways about like oftentimes the problem or like the solution for something like Dark Souls is, well, like you're just not using like a very optimized build and like changing your build up could help you is something that comes up for a lot of people, or like changing your level spread. And I feel awkward about it because you don't want to tell people like, hey, you're playing the game wrong, because that doesn't feel good. But also sometimes people are just like making their life harder for themselves. Dempsey does this. He makes his life harder for himself, and then he says, this game's hard, I don't want to finish it. Which is what he did with Elden Ring.
Right.
Because it's funny.
Yeah, but then you don't finish the damn game.
Yeah, well, it's fine. I've got to every boss of Elden Ring. I have not beaten every boss of Elden Ring. I still have Millennia, and I still have the Elden Beast, but those are the only two left. So I've seen
two
everything.
tough fights. Yeah. This came to a head for me when I was playing Sekiro, which is FromSoft's like ninja style stealth game. And I got through to New Game Plus. I actually did not 100% Sekiro. I forgot about this. But I got pretty close, and I got stuck in New Game Plus because I was just fighting my least favorite boss across every boss in the Souls series. It literally, I think it's my bottommost fight. I was playing it on the harder difficulty, and I was playing it with like the optional extra difficulty modifiers. And I just said, this is bullshit. I hate this. I'm not having fun. I'm actually so not having fun that I don't want 100% this game.
Oh no.
Because it would require me to beat this boss, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I gave it up. And I went and played better games that I had more fun with instead.
So, oh wait, were you done, Seth?
I have one last thought for that, which is, and I think that's where this is tough in talking about games, because games are supposed to be entertaining and we're supposed to have fun. It's not like my math assignments where it's like, okay, I need to learn how to do this, and it doesn't really matter that like it's tough and frustrating. Like I need to learn how to do this. So I need to keep bashing my head against the wall until I figure it out. it's a game. And if I'm not having fun, I can always go pick up another game that I'm going to have more fun with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of just the reality sometimes. Sorry, Dempsey, what were you going to say?
So last week, Seth did something that I kind of have found myself doing a lot, and that's the Mario version of an idea. And for me, that helps me simplify a game element. It strips away a lot of the things that can complicate it. So like skill checks in Disco Elysium, like that's a complicated conversation about narrative and these characters' motivations, and skill checks in something like Cyberpunk or Skyrim or whatever, like because they're so broad and open world. And even skill checks in something like Hades is a little bit more complicated because you have like God mode and regular. And so like the progression can mean different things to people that are experiencing that game in different ways. But I think a skill check in Mario where like, if you do not complete this level, you do not progress. And I think like thinking about like that as like the most basic version of a skill check, like just if you do not get past like Bowser on the first castle, you're not going to see the rest of Super Mario World. What
No.
Yeah, what I think about is, does this feel reasonable for me to complete? And Mario is balanced to where I think for most people, for the general population, Mario's difficulty is going to feel reasonable. I think for most people, Mario is, and the skill of game design at that point is finding a level of difficulty that people connect with. Like that is making those checkpoints challenging enough to be engaging, but easy enough to not be frustrating. And so like, if the answer is this reasonable anymore, if that gets to no, then I usually like that's my barometer, I guess. And so I feel like Hollow Knight has some like, oh, like this is for people who are lunatics. Like this is for people who want to be incredibly good at this game, not for the average person.
Right.
I think some of Elden Ring has that a little bit, in my experience. And so that's, I don't know. I guess that's the kind of a framework that has helped me think about it as you've been talking about it, is like, yeah, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. Definitely. I think that's kind of a good segue. We can always segue back, but thinking about like whether something is reasonable and relevant, just to think about in like a classroom setting, I was kind of thinking about like what kind of skill checks. We do skill checks all the time with our students, where they have to demonstrate that they have a skill, right? Or that they can solve a problem or whatever the thing is. And I was thinking about what makes like skill checks in school suck. And it's like what you're saying, that it feels too hard. It feels unreasonable, or it feels arbitrary, or it feels like there's no redos. Like, here's your test, and if you don't get it right, too bad, we're moving on, versus the opportunity to revise or to revisit in a different way, and that sort of thing. And Dempsey, I know that you have a lot of feelings and thoughts about like relevancy with assignments and choice when it comes to that. What do you have any thoughts about what makes for a positive sort of skill check experience in school?
Yeah. So I will say that I have benefited from bullshit skill checks in school, because I just happened to be really good at tests in high school. Not that I was a good student, not that I paid attention in class, not that I could like do assignments well or know how to research, but like on a multiple yes, I was. And for the ACT, it was the same thing. Like there's just a certain vibe you can get from where the answers are leading you, even if you're not that comfortable with the subject matter itself.
Absolutely.
And I think And even though I benefited from that, and it was like my ACT scores was good enough to get me a scholarship, like, so even though I benefited directly from that, I think it's a bad thing because it didn't show that I knew. It didn't show that I actually knew about any of that content. It just shows that I could get in the mind of the designers of the test, which like now I co-host a video game podcast about like game design. Like that's just what that's just what I've always been into, is like thinking about creativity and how you make these things and whatever. But it doesn't mean that I knew more, like that I was showing my actual knowledge about the science topic or how to read stats or like whatever kind of important thing that they were trying to teach me. So I think in school, in my opinion, the biggest thing is when the infrastructure that you're like when the design of the assessment sabotages the subject matter that you're supposed to be assessing. And for people who are really good at tests, that can work in our favor because I never really had to study that much because I could vibe my way through a test. And for people who didn't have that way to like vibe their way through a test, that worked the opposite for them. So that I think that's my biggest opinion on that, is that what you're actually testing for, which in ELL, which is English language learning, we talked about this all the time about like making sure that the method of assessment does not get in the way of the actual knowledge you're assessing. That was a huge thing. And so I think in school, like the healthiest thing that I think like the healthiest approach is make sure that you are, you're not rewarding the kids who happen to be good at school, which I was one of those kids, but you're rewarding kids who like are actually interfacing with the subject matter.
Right.
Yeah, and just sort of, wrapping that back around, the main thing that comes to mind is just, the variety of kinds of different ways you can ask questions, right? Like, yeah, a multiple choice test is one way to do it, but anytime I throw together a multiple test choice, which is a lot, to be fair, I'm always trying to add in different kinds of questions, whether that's, putting a little bit of extra thought into, exactly like the kind of question, something along the lines of like Bloom's taxonomy, like how difficult is this question? Like what kind of thinking is it testing for? Or, okay, so I just had a bunch of like multiple choice questions. What if I do like a matching question? Or what if this is a question where like, hey, I want you to identify this thing in this image? And I feel like that's one way you can sort of get a bit around what Dempsey is going for. Now, those are all just like standard test questions, but, then you got to mix it up a little bit. Have some projects, have some essays, have some, give the students a little bit of choice in the matter, have them design something. And that could sort of help accommodate the different students. And then that goes into, the issues of, everything else, like, L inclusion for English language learner inclusion, or, like modifying stuff for different student levels, which Katie, I'm sure you do all the time.
I was going to say, Katie would be the best one to talk about this.
Yeah, 100%. That's why she's running the episode. Who would have guessed?
I think I agree that.
Katie, do you want to talk about what kind of teacher you are?
Oh yeah, I forget that not everyone has listened to the first episode where we explain that. I'm a special education teacher. So I teach middle school English and reading, and I work specifically with students with learning disabilities. So a lot in both special education classes and general ed classes. So I spend a lot of time. Like I co-teach, so I always say like my co-teacher is the content expert. Like she's the English teacher. She knows the curriculum inside and out. And I'm the like approaches person. I take what we're doing with everybody and I figure out how to make it work with the kids that need a different approach. And I also teach reading for kids that struggle. So most of my day is spent thinking about skill checks and what am I actually asking for? What do I actually want to be able to see that they can do? And then if they're struggling, what is it that we need to change or revisit to make it more accessible for them? And I think, Dempsey, you were saying something. I'm trying to remember now. I had a thought when you were talking about, and I should have said it then, but I didn't want to interrupt Seth. But basically that I agree that if you're good at taking tests, then that's never going to be a barrier for you. But if you're not good at taking tests, I feel like some people just they have such anxiety about it, or their brains don't work that way, whatever thing it is that makes them shut down when they're faced with a test, that they can't show their actual knowledge. And then it creates this negative cycle of, oh my God, this is going to be on the test. I can't take tests. I'm going to fail. Then they have all that anxiety. They go to do it. They fail. And then a lot of the times, it's not like in a video game where you're not able to move to the next level until you pass it. You just keep moving anyway. And then you get further and further and further behind, right? So
yeah.
I think and it's brutal because once you get into that loop, it's so hard to get out because the tide just never stops, So I think when it comes to creating assessment or creating skill checks for students, I think it's really, and it's so hard because if you're teaching 30 kids in a class, it's so difficult to create that individualized, those individualized options. But I think creating your approach to curriculum so that you're allowing people to show their skills in different ways is super important, or to build in a feedback and revision process so that it's never just a one and done sort of misery where they bounce off their education.
And I was going to say, this is something I'm sure is obvious to every teacher at this point, but building generalized differentiation is, I guess, the way to call it. I sort of have one level of differentiation that I feel like is going to fit, the majority of the needs of my students with some sort of special education need or English language learner need. I might have one option that I feel covers 95% of the students in the class.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the other 1 to 2 student who I'm okay, you have an extra special need. Usually it involves, okay, I give the student the modified option. They say, hey, it's still missing these 1 or 2 things. And then I'm okay, and then I can go make that revision as needed. And I found, that works great for essentially students who know, hey, these are my needs and here's how you need to meet them. Occasionally I run into a student who's hey, these are my needs. And I'm that's not outlined in your, in your needs document. And then they get argumentative, and then that's a whole other story. But, just having that generalized level is what I've, plus it makes it so you don't have to do that 1-to-1, right? I'm not making 30 copies of individual copies of an exam. I make 1 extra copy and then say, okay, how does this need to be modified for the few students who it doesn't help out? Sorry. I'm sure every teacher knows that already. But
yeah. You're good. Dempsey, you look like you were going to say something. I didn't want to interrupt.
No, I was going to say, and I think that's why it's important to have a lot of diverse assessment strategies. That's it's very antiquated to have 1 test that's worth 50% of your grade, or your semester test is worth I think that's ridiculous, and most teachers do not do that anymore. Yeah, that's all. Those big cumulative tests.
Yeah. Oh gosh, no. Who does well on those? And why would you need to? We have the internet. I think it's sort of like you're saying, Seth, that having 95% of what you're doing fits 95% of the people, and then you can make little adjustments. I feel like, to segue sort of back into games, I feel like we're starting to see that in game development, where Get Good is starting to get a little bit of nuance in games like Hades, where you have God mode, or Celeste, where there's lots of different accessibility features to make it playable for people. And it's accessible design is just good design. So, yeah.
Yeah. So Katie, I have a question for you because in video, okay. So here's my train of thought. So in video games, it's a little bit hard because you're robbing the player of that original intended experience. So
Mhm.
I played Hades with God mode on, and that means I do not think I experienced Hades as the developers intended. Like I did not build my skill
Mhm.
as whatever Supermassive Games or whoever made that game,
Supergiant.
Supergiant, yeah. As Supergiant wanted me to, they wanted me to build my skill and not have to be supported by God mode. And I think most people who played Hades do not play it with God mode on. And so I have a question about the methods part of your job.
Can I just
So-
interrupt?
Yeah.
Because I would disagree. Because
Oh,
they
okay.
included God mode
Yeah, I agree.
as
with
an
Seth.
option for the player. Like, clearly, if the developers didn't intend you to use it, they wouldn't have included it.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's fair. I'll take that.
So-
But
Now, I might add the caveat that maybe it wasn't their original vision, but I mean, you work on projects, visions change over time. So maybe they said, hey, this is our original vision, but also we want like inclusion and accessibility to also be part of that vision, and here's how we're going to make that happen.
right, like they would rather. I think what I've seen from game developers that include those sorts of accessibility features is that they would rather you play a slightly modified version than not be able to play at all.
Yes. So, okay. So, and this goes back to what question I have for Katie as someone who works in special ed. So, do you ever feel like the way that you have to augment an assignment ruins the impact of the assignment or diminishes the impact of the assignment of some way? Like,
Dempsey, you're going to get Katie fired.
What?
You're going to get Katie fired.
No, it's
no.
So,
like,
I understand what you're saying.
okay, yeah, like, I don't know, like, okay, yeah. If you understand what I'm saying, you can answer the question because I'm not going to add anything useful.
No, that's okay. So the purpose of like accommodation. So you have two different. I'm going to get a little sped talk here for a second. So you have accommodation and you have modification. An accommodation is bringing something to the table so that the student can access the curriculum, the same curriculum that everyone else is accessing, where they are. And then modification is when you change the actual thing that they're doing so that they're doing a different thing.
Okay. Yes. Okay. This is interesting.
Yeah. So, generally speaking, you try to do accommodations first because you want them to have the same experience that everyone else is having and learn all of the same things that everyone else is learning. Modification comes when accommodations don't cut it, for whatever reason, or, sometimes there's other reasons, but like for whatever reason, you need to change what they're actually doing. Most of the time, the way that I work it out with my co-teacher and our students is that we're working on the same standards, but sometimes the specific skill gets a little bit changed. So like we read the Odyssey and the students were supposed to like analyze like Odysseus and whether he was actually a hero or not and all that stuff. And they were supposed to write a paragraph to explain their thoughts. A lot of my students struggle with reading and writing. So we read it together and then we discussed it. And then they kind of made their claims and supported their arguments verbally. So you could say that it changed because they weren't having to write it. But in that situation, my emphasis wasn't on can they write a paragraph, like an argumentative paragraph. It's do they understand what they're reading? Can they form an opinion and can they back it up? So it's changing the method, but the outcome is the same in what they actually practiced with their brains. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. That really answers my question. Thank you.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah. Seth's making fun of me.
No, and you know what? It's funny, being on the other side of things, which is like a general education teacher. And it's tough because, from my perspective, I'm interested in teaching the content, but like I'm in an area that has a lot of students who are new to the US, from like usually places like South America. So they might speak almost no English, and I'm trying to teach them about like meteorology. And sometimes like there's just no way for me to teach them the content that I want to teach without like making modifications to the content. There's just no way to do it without making modifications. Did we lose Dempsey?
No, I'm here.
Oh, you just
he's so relaxed with his
went
feet up.
So like I thought your screen froze up.
He's got his feet up.
So
I'm just listening.
Like it's difficult to teach a student about like, especially when it comes to like high level vocab. Like I'll talk about Ekman transport, like the way that how ocean winds on the ocean surface cause this like swirling effect of water as you go deeper into the water. But the reality is these students need to learn like the English word for water and wind and cloud, because those are natural barriers to talking about Ekman transport and its effects on like ocean topography. So that's places where like modification just kind of runs into a wall, is like student skill, but also something I was thinking about, Katie, as you were talking, right? And this is like actual special education topics, for not even a different day, because it's not our podcast. But then you run into like least restrictive environment issues, and like, is the student in the right kind of classroom in the first place? And also like, we can't really remove them out of the classroom because of how least restrictive environment works. So anyway.
Right. No, yeah, for sure. It can get tricky, and it can get like a vicious cycle sort of situation.
Yeah, I'm just glad I don't have to write IEP documents.
That I would say, I didn't go into it for the paperwork, but that's probably 50% of my job at least. Oh, well. So on the topic of, I would call it scaffolding in like a game like Hades, where you are able to decrease the difficulty by increasing your health, which I think is what it is. You get more health or something, isn't it? Each time
something
that
like
you die.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I know in Celeste, which I know that there are the accessibility features, but I still haven't tried them because I was so bad the first time I played Celeste that it scared me off. But I know that it has lots of different accessibility features. Do either of you feel like there's a point? Like, what point do you decide to take advantage of those kinds of features? Like, if you're playing a game and you're super stuck, when do you decide to change the settings or look it up on the internet because you're so stuck you can't figure out the puzzle, or, something like that?
So like, where
Like,
we
what's
disengage with the challenge?
Where's the point where you're like, okay, life is short. I am going to do X, Y, and Z to get through this stage. Like for me, on Hades, I got to a point where I got to credits without God mode. And then I realized that there was still so much left. And I had already put like 60 or 70 hours into it. And I was like, okay, I want to see where this goes. And I turned God mode on so that I could bust through more of my loops. And get through the latter half of the game. Because I wanted to know what happened. And I didn't want to spend 10 years trying to get through it every time.
Yeah, I think a question that I ask myself is, am I playing this for the accomplishment of the struggle, or am I playing this for the narrative and the characters? And something like Hades, as fun as the gameplay is, for me, the gameplay was a vehicle to be served a story. And so, well, that's not true because I turn on God mode. I'm full of shit. That was literally the opposite of my point.
No, you turned on God mode because you wanted to experience the story.
Oh, wait. No, I was correcting the point I was making.
You're not full of shit. Believe in yourself.
Oh, my God. I was so worried. That
you still are, just not on this point.
Yeah. Okay. I was so worried I just said the opposite thing that I said. But no. Okay. So in Hades to me was not about accomplishment through struggle. I wanted to okay, yeah. What I said the first time was right. Holy shit. I have no idea what happened. But
just went in a time loop.
I just went in a time loop. That was wild. So for me, the struggle of the mechanics was just so I can get more story. However, in a game like Outer Wilds, the philosophy in that game is delivered through struggle. And so I would not look anything up because the experience that I want is the struggle of the puzzles of Outer Wilds. And so like, so yeah, I guess that's how I feel. Like am I looking for accomplishment and achievement through struggle, or am I looking for, like God of War? I think I was looking for both. And so I kept it on hard mode playing because like I both wanted to feel competent and cool like Kratos. And so yeah, I think for me, it just depends on what I want.
That's, very good. I agree with
that. For me, it's 100% game dependent. And usually what it comes down to is if I'm fighting something like a boss, but the boss is too difficult, I will bash my head against the wall, and I will do it eventually. Even if it's just like, even if it came down to like I need to flip 5 coins in a row and I need them to all land on heads, I will sit there and I'll just flip the coins until they all land on heads because I can see the path to victory. Like it's there it is. That's how I achieve it. I can't do it yet. And eventually, even if by sheer luck I will get it done, and then we'll be past it. And that's how I beat most of the Dark Souls games. Is like, this sucks. I hate this boss, but I will beat this eventually, even if it's by a stroke of luck.
What, now, Seth? Would you ever cheese a boss?
100%. If that's a path, like fight it like an unintended way. So I'll give an example about that. I
was going to give an example too.
So, because I want to mention my second piece. My second piece is if it's like and this is why I don't do good at puzzle games. If it's something like a puzzle and there's no clear path, I have no idea. I will not, because how I think about things usually is like, first things first, I'm taking the algorithm path. Like I'm working all the brain nodes and seeing like, okay, what's the most efficient way to do this? Or like, what's the way that makes the most sense? And once I run through all of the algorithms in my head, the next option is heuristic. Okay, I'm just going to go check every square inch possible, starting on the top left and working my way row by row, column by column to the bottom right. And that's honestly, our PG-13 moment, boring as fuck. And just a bad way to play games. So if that's the next option that I'm going to look it up and I'm just going to move on with my life so I can get to the more fun parts of the dang game. For Dempsey's example about like cheesing a boss, doing it in an unintended way. When I was doing my level 1 run for Elden Ring, there's a boss, which you can still do on the current version of the game. It's this dude on a horse, and you could just stand on a certain spot on this bridge, and the dude just jumps off the bridge, and you get the souls.
Oh, wow.
And he's like a later game boss, and it gives you a bunch of souls.
Is he the golden horse guy?
No, there's a different horse guy.
Oh.
No, but you can cheese the golden horse guy.
Yeah, you can just like stand on a cliff and like shoot arrows down at him.
Yep.
Oh, I've done that before. I've done that on like Skyrim and stuff. Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel no problem with doing that. I encourage it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
But there's a lot of bosses in games you can't do stuff like that, and it's just like, okay, I gotta go fight this the way that you're supposed to.
I've got to go get good
I just
now.
gotta get good, and I'll do it eventually.
That's incredible. That really speaks to your like perseverance, like as a character trait.
No, because if it's a puzzle, then I just give up.
Fair. Okay, so in certain situations. That makes
Oh
sense,
yeah.
though.
This is the gifted kid hyperfixation on like, if I can do it, if I could see the pathway, then yeah, I'll do it. But if I can't, I'm just going to give up.
Right. I'm sort of opposite. Like I wandered Nancy Drew's high school for an hour checking everything before I finally was like, okay, I need a clue.
0% chance I would do that.
Sometimes if I'm like, okay, I'm not having fun and I just want to move on, I will look it up. But a lot of the times with like puzzle games, I'm like, nope, this is the point. I want to challenge my brain. I want to figure it out. I want to be smart. I want to feel smart. And if I have to look it up, I'm going to feel stupid. And so for me, like the personal, like, danger of feeling stupid is stronger than my frustration that I can't figure out this puzzle. Like I need this game to validate the fact that I'm a smart person. But I might die of old age before I figure it out. We'll see. All right. Any other thoughts? Or I think we've done it.
Yeah. I think I want to say I have one more thought. I want to say I think I am a huge fan of an open book test for the reason of I feel like open book tests, especially in like high school and stuff, more accurately test like a lot of the things that we're looking after.
It's a little more difficult these days with like digital textbooks and like access to the internet and like Chat GPT, which will just like answer questions for you. But yeah, I'm hoping to, sometimes wrong. I'm hoping to put together something this year, which is like an open book test, and kind of see how it goes. We kind of did that in my environmental science class. We'd have like essay questions for the students and say like, you have access to any resource you want. Like you could look the question up on the internet if you really wanted to. But the most important thing is that like, I want you to synthesize like a reasonable answer to this question and be able to provide like an answer with evidence. So
yeah, so much of what I like when it comes to what I try to assess my kids on, my students, sorry, it's not whether they can remember something, especially for my students with learning challenges. Like a lot of the times the memory and retention is an area of struggle, part of why they struggle. So for me, it's not reasonable as an assessment to say, okay, well, can you remember all of these things? What is reasonable to me is, can you think about this in a logical way? And can you express yourself in a logical way to show that you understand? And so I think building assessment to show what you actually want to know, what you want to know if they know, I guess I'm trying to say. But it's work. It's certainly a lot of work. All right. Well, I think that does us for today. Thank you so much for listening to Overthinking Games, our podcast about what video games teach us. We are doing a bi-weekly release schedule right now through the summer.
Maybe not by the time this comes out.
Yeah, maybe
this might not come out till
true.
September.
Oh, that's true. So. Well, ixnay that. Never mind. I don't know what schedule we're doing. We'll see by then. But if you have any thoughts or suggestions that you'd like to share with us, you can email us at our email, which is in the show notes. Next week is going to be an off-topic week, which I don't think we've decided on yet.
No, we have not. We're going to talk about
holy
that
shit already.
Behind bars. No, but not behind bars. Behind the curtains.
Behind closed doors. The podcast
behind closed
backstage.
Doors.
Yeah. Find us on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and wherever you find your podcasts. And we hope you join us next time. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh.
Seth, you gotta give a little saying. You always say something.
Is it too late? Don't forget to drink your Ovaltine.
Okay, that's good. That'll work. I'm stopping mine now.
Okay.